Welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen. It's really two programs in one. This is a series that appeals to your creative side. Food that is sumptuous stuff. How could that be? This is a program about people who want to eat healthy and reduce calories. Actually, it's about food with an aromatic quality that fills the nose. Oh, sure. But it's also about keeping my arteries clean by reducing fat. But it doesn't mean a thing if the food isn't rich and colorful. Maximize the flavor. Okay, but I must have healthy food that I can cook in minutes. I must minimize the risk. So welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen, where we get our heads together just for you.
Hey, welcome back once again, this time for a creative idea. This is, look, frankly, this is exotic. This is a Thai curry, and there are a few ingredients in here which are a little unusual. Fine, I understand that. But, oh, the wonder of it all, and the uniqueness of the technique called a drip stew, which is a completely new way of cooking that I really don't think many people have ever done before. So, you ready for this? What we'll do, we'll wind up with a dish which shows some orange poking through it, but largely it's going to be white, because it's going to be rather like a coconut cream sauce. I know what you're thinking. You can't do that, you're saying. Yes, I can. You watch and see. Little pokes, poking through there is just a little shin of beef, which is a very tough cut. But this is melting and gelatinous and rolls around the mouth in a beautiful way. I'm going to put a little greenery up here with some coconut, and that's going to be nestled into a yogurt sauce with some cumin, and it just tastes delicious. And here is going to be a chapati. And I'm going to suggest to you where you can go out and actually buy a chapati, but on the other hand, there is in the book something where you can actually make one. And they are lovely to be able to take with a curry on the side. This really is an elegant dish. And it is so creative. That's the big word for today. Okay, come through. Let's see how it's done. Well, in Thailand, they don't use a curry powder, but a paste. And it's a wonderful idea. And I'll show you how it actually gets together. There are a few things here. There are one or two things that were quite unusual, but let's have a look first of all. There are dried chilies, and these are very red and hot, and I mean, whoo! So I've said 5 inches of chilies. I know that's a little odd. This is a 6-inch scale here. So if you just simply line up your chilies, you should get 5 inches there. All right, just about there, okay? And it's a little easier than saying 5 chilies, because they could be 5 chilies like this one, or the great big fella, or 5 one like this, and you wouldn't really know. But 5 inches is a whole lot easier, and that's 2 of those. These are cardamom seeds. I don't know if you can see that closely enough, but these little seeds are just wonderful. They're used like breast mints in Indian restaurants. And here is a piece of cinnamon, and that's the bark, as you know, about 1/2 inch. And then that's the end of the pepper. There are 3 cloves there. So these are the spices which go in to start to make it up. And really, this is quite simple. You just drop them down in a coffee mill, or if you haven't got a coffee mill, but you have got a pestle and mortar, which is probably unlikely, but you need to be able to somehow grind them up. Now, you could say, could you go from the original seeds, you know, to powder straight away? That you've got powdered, you know, the powdered chilies, which would be cayenne pepper, and powdered cardamom. Yeah, you could. But you know something? We want to sort of live in the aroma zone here, and it is so much better when it's done in this fashion. So invest in one of these things. They're about $25. I know that might be a bit much, but $25, please think of it. You'll have the great opportunity of being able to have marvelous smells all over your kitchen. Now, what I always do is when I've used one of these, and I've learnt from, you know, hard experience, that if you don't pass it through a little sieve after you've done it, there are some little sharp pieces. You can never whiz up a powder in here as fine as you would like it. So there are some bits and pieces there which will still remain hard and would remain hard until the end. And frankly, grit in the middle of a dish doesn't taste very good. So that's almost through there. I'll put that back and give it a little whiz later on. Good. So that becomes the basic powder that goes into it. Place that on one side. And let's have a look at the garlic. Now, oh, here. Oh, come here. It's all gone. Well, I had 7 cloves of garlic and one's under the counter. But so there's 6 cloves of garlic. This is how the great dishes are made. And you then put into the pan 1 teaspoonful of oil. And before you add the garlic, you look at the shallot. And to keep this very carefully on the countertop. I've got 6 shallots in this dish. And a shallot is a very finely flavored onion, cum, garlic. It sort of nestles in between, rather like the leek. And it's very indistinct sort of feeling. You put 7 of those, of course, in. And you've got 7 cloves of garlic, 6 cloves of garlic, and 1 on the counter. And then these 7, I suppose I should take one out to make the balance perfect. But if you happen to have an onion problem, do you? Hi. Do you have an onion problem, where you get indigestion from onions? Well, try shallots instead of onions in dish. Quite a few people have found relief from that. It's interesting. Okay, in goes the 7, in goes the 6 cloves of garlic, crushed, and just cook those together with the powder that you made, that curry powder. How simple. I mean, simple if you've got it there. And then stir that around, and immediately the smell that comes off this is just fantastic. I want to cook that so as to warm those spices together. Okay? Now, let's have a look at the meat. And we're going to go into the supermarket in a moment. I hope you're liking those sort of things. I love them. To go into the supermarket. And here I'm going to deal with, excuse me, this part of the leg down to the shin. And this is the bone that runs through the shin. And it's almost cut up for you. It has this wonderful collagen which runs throughout. And what you do is you chop this up into small pieces, and there's only 8 ounces of meat for the entire dish. And cut those into about 1-inch pieces so that you get at least a couple of pieces each. And you can say, Graham, that is not enough for me. My family would never put up with it. I will have to double it. Don't. Do you know, this dish is wonderful even if all the meat came out of it. So post the bone on one side. The reason why I have done this on a separate board, obviously, is I want to keep the meat away from the other things that I'm cooking. Okay, so that's all ready. Now, what we're going to do is actually put the meat straight from here into a large bowl. And you'll probably need, if you get the shin, to order about 1 pound, because the bone is, about half a pound in weight. And then here, take a potato and cut that into quarters like that, about the same sort of shape, and then dump all those potatoes in 1.5 pound of little red potatoes. And take a carrot and just chop that carrot. This is going to be the greatest dish underneath this counter. And there we go. And this is 1 pound of carrot. And those 1 pound of carrots again cut, hopefully, in the same sort of size as the rest of the pieces there. And let me show you what happens here. Here, when this has done its warming spicy business together, and I can actually, by breathing in, be careful how you breathe in close to it, because when you've got chilies there, there's a wonderful sort of comes up and it goes right down on your lungs. So be careful. Here, half a teaspoonful of powdered ginger. That's not the raw ground ginger that we use quite a lot of. Half a teaspoonful of freshly grated nutmeg. Okay, number 2. 1 tablespoonful of zest of lime. And we didn't say just the less of one lime, because you can have big fat limes and little limes and things. But this is a wonderful lime, and just pop that in as well. Then, let me see, 2 tablespoons full of water and some fish sauce. 3 tablespoonfuls of fish sauce. Now, fish sauce are small fish which are salted and, and let to go kind of woofy in a clay container in the sun for several months. And it has a wonderful smell to it. And don't get put off, please, because it's absolutely vital that you use it. And you'll find it in good Asian stores. Look up in the yellow pages and you'll find it there. And this is now what is called WONF coconut. Now, I'm going to give you the name. This is very unusual for me because it's the only thing that I know, that a person who makes it well. It's actually Mother Murphy. Hi, Mother. Mother Murphy supplies this natural coconut flavor to bakeries, but not to us in supermarkets. So remember, Mother Murphy's, and tell the supermarket that the bakery department gets this, and why can't I have it too, or put it up in a little bottle from the bakery department. Buy it that way. All right? Come on, let's change things together. Let's get it, let's organize it, because I must have the flavor of coconut in the dish. Pop the thing on the top. This is a little processor, and start whizzing it up. Now, whilst I'm whizzing it up, it takes about 2 or 3 minutes. Why don't we go and have a look at collagen and how it occurs in meat, and what kinds of meat's got lots of it for you in order to be able to do this dish if you didn't want to do it with beef. Okay? Right. Off to the supermarket. Thank you, cook. Okay. I'll get to those in a moment. Now, this is a really important thing to look at, because if you're going to make some varietal choices with this method of cooking, you're going to look at the actual ingredient itself, collagen. There are 3 kinds of proteins to look for. One of them here, where you get blood vessels, is called elastin, and that's around the outside of the blood vessel. And obviously, as it pulsates and moves, it has to be elastic. And the other one is called reticulin. And reticulin is around the outside of a muscle, very much like this one here, you see? Now, this does not melt out at slow cooking temperature. It remains hard, and so do the elastin. But the last one, collagen, is the one that we're looking for. And this is beautifully illustrated here. This is fat here. These are fat. This is fat striations in here. But now and again, you get the collagen marking through, which are these. It's a little hard to see in this particular one, but I wanted to show you what fat looks like. Now let's have a look and see what this looks like, which is the veal. Now this is a veal knuckle. That's right at the bottom of the shin. And here are the markings. It's too soon yet for fat, and fat doesn't, this is not fat, this is collagen. So therefore, when that is long, slow cooked, it becomes very tender. Now this is the cut that we've been using in this program, and that Graham's fiddling around with now. It has a wonderful deep striations of the collagen. In fact, you can see the collagen there. And when that melts, it becomes smooth. It's what I call mouth round fullness. It isn't fattiness, but it fills the mouth, and it's smooth and wonderful. And that's what does such a good job. Now, I went around looking for some of the other things which would do this. How about this one? This is oxtail, and oxtail does a great job for this, but notice the fat. You'll have to strain that at the end of it. Here's something that does well as well. Do you know, for ordinary little fryer legs? They're just great. As the larger leg would be with the frozen turkey. There's a lot of collagen in that, a lot of collagen in that. And of course, our old friend, the lamb shank, which does brilliantly as well. So, all of these things, if it works a lot, if it moves a lot with the blade or with the leg and the end of the leg, these things do just beautifully by this technique. All right, Graham, let's see exactly how it works. Great. Okay, well, thanks very much. That's done just nicely there now. Now, what happens here is that you just simply remove the top, and it sort of spurts around a little bit, but gosh, it's well worthwhile, this is. And then just drop this paste over the top of the vegetables and the meat, which are over there in the bowl. Now, before I start stirring that in, I want to just do something ahead of time. You'll see all of this in a moment. I'll take you through it. I've got to do something out of sequence, which is a little hard for me. You dump this in and you pull this out. You don't know anything about that yet, but so contain yourselves in patience. It's all going to happen. And then take a cloth and dump out the juices from here. The juices are remarkable because they have come from a steaming, condensing process, which I'll explain in just a sec. Then you take half a cup of cold water and just rinse the cold water around that mold and just drop it down through, just rinse it out so that there's nothing left in the mold whatsoever. All right, now we just shake that out so as to be able to get the juices all running out from there. Take the water out of this saucepan, everything will become clear. And then take this mixture here and drop it down into that pan because we're going to add a sauce. We're going to make a sauce for that. Now heat this up so that it's nearly boiling, and I'll come back to that in a second. Now everything will become clear. With this, you simply take, let me just turn that down. You then take this mix and you simply stir it all up together. And then you take a pan which is called a Bunt pan, that's the actual name of the thing, or a Kugelhof pan, and you take the vegetables that you've got here and you simply put all of that into the dish. You see the meat is there as well, and you'll notice that there's a hole in the middle. Now this is to make a particular kind of cake, obviously, but it works brilliantly for this thing. And this is why I said it was so unusual, because I've never actually seen anything done quite this way before, and it's my own little invention. I thought, look at that. At least you didn't go onto the bench. And the smell of gorgeous. Now, you take a large pot like this one with about 2 or 3 inches of water in the bottom, and you simply drop that down into the water. Now what happens is the water, you put it on a moderate heat, and the water comes up and it condenses on the top of the lid here and drops down over the meat. And it looks just like it did when I lifted the lid of the other one. You see this is boiling now. You can take that to the side and take about 4 tablespoons full of water. I think I used the wrong water for the other thing, but it doesn't matter. I put 4 tablespoons full of water in there, and that's why it was a bit soupy. And now this is going to be very thick. And so then you take this mix, which is strained off the dish, and you just pour that in, and this will then thicken. This is cornstarch, so it needs about 30 seconds of blooping to be able to get it going. And it will thicken it so that you can make this kind of alternative to coconut cream. That's the big thing that we have to find here as a creative alternative to coconut cream. It's a wonderful, I don't know whether you like coconut cream, but I love it. It's just so mouthfeel is fantastic. And we just take this, which is ordinary yogurt, non-fat yogurt, and we strain it in one of these little plastic things, and out comes the whey at the bottom, and it's all done nicely. Now, here we then take a little whisk and start to whisk the sauce, this sauce that we had from here, which is the condensed, magnificent experience, you know, from the actual condensation. It cooks for about 3 hours, 3 to 6 hours. And I say 3 to 6 hours, it honestly can hardly go wrong, but 3 hours is just fine. And you've got this terrific sauce, which you then pour over the top. Now see how wonderful that looks as you stir that around like so. Turn that off. Now this is simply and solely, you just get a hold of this and pop this in to a nice serving dish of this nature, okay? Just lift it up and whack it in. And I've got a cucumber riata salad that goes with that. And a few peanuts are just shaken over the top, dry roasted peanuts over the top there. A little dusting of parsley, and I'll show you the riata salad just over there in a magical way. Now, I told you we'd get some magic, and here it is already ahead of us. This is the riata salad, which is cucumber and little yogurt and cumin, and this is the chapati. It looks like a puppet, it looks like a tortilla, but of course it's not a chapati. And I've got some in my book which have got no fat in them. These have got a little bit of fat in them. Okay, well, there we are. We did the dish, and let's have a look at the numbers. The classic has got coconut cream sauce in it, and coconut cream, because of that, is 1237 and 80 grams of fat. Now, because we didn't do that, look how it drops down to 13 grams of fat, 46 carbohydrate, 26% calories from fat instead of 59. Comes down to 61 in cholesterol and 694 because of the fish sauce on the sodium. But really, pretty good stuff when you think of it. And I'll tell you, if you want a real experience in creativity, with those dry roasted peanuts at the end, and with that marvelous bite that it has to it, and that lilting lime that goes through the whole thing, and the aroma that comes up, and you can feel the coconut without actually having to have it slathered through you. It really is a smashing dish. Well, of course, you know, when it comes down to this business of creativity, and that's what I felt when I started this. This is so creative. It has layers upon layers. It's another country's cuisine. It's another people's food. But it's adapted in that unusual way with the drip stew idea to be able to suit us. I don't know whether you're like me, but I like to get things on the go and be able to put it on one side and not get fussed about the fact that it's going to burn or something. With that drip stew done in that way, it can't. It literally cannot burn. It comes up through the hole in the middle, condenses and drips down. That's why I call it a drip stew. Okay, flavors are gorgeous. Do you remember a little while ago, I hope you got the program, when we looked at the new pyramid, and I kept the same piece of paper that I did before. This is the food pyramid, and the idea is that this is foods that you can eat a lot of, grains, etc., foods that you can eat less of as it gradually goes to the top, and on the top is fat. That's a very good idea. Before we used to have the 4 food groups, you know, the basic 4 food groups, but I'd like to come up with something as another 4 food groups from our point of view. I'd like to come up, because I think the way that I feel about food, and I think you do too, is I want some satisfaction. I want to feel I've eaten this kind of food, 12 ounces of food there. I want variety, and we chose that for fruit and vegetables. I want to be comforted. I want to, like if I was from Thailand, I would love to feel this because I would feel that it was of my home and my country. That's nostalgia. And I want creativity. Now, I want to create new things. Where do you get creativity from? Well, I think you get it from herbs and spices and some of these little seasonings and everything else that we put into this. And that's why in the book that goes with this series, I've listed there almost 100 different creative herbs and spices and describe them fully to you, which go in here. But nobody has ever done this. It's not in the pyramid. There's nothing about herbs and spices. There's nothing in the 4 food groups. But there is in this creative idea of these 4 things that we want out of food. So for me, the creativity comes from herbs and spices, and when you get to know more about them and can start putting them together, rather like an artist does, who has a palette, an artist's palette, and chooses to mix different colors together, like somebody on a soundboard who puts more trebles and basses to put sound together, so you and I, as cooks who are involved with our food, can take our creativity and move in with herbs and spices in a very special way. I love to set those bright notes and those lilting flavors through food. It's just wonderful. Join me, won't you? Okay. Oh, this is, I mean, you know, I have to say that this stuff is the most creative food I've cooked in a long, long time. Won't you try it with some good friends? Okay, have fun. God bless you. See you next time.